Well, not too much going on, but yeah, one of our transfers is visiting Michigan this weekend, and that was certainly enough to stir the pot amongst former players and some family members. Oh yeah, let's roll on it, baby. Woo!
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you're feeling about today's events in the transfer portal and, guys just going to the rival schools because I guess that's just what you do in this day and age in college football. Or if you ever want to reach out, lockedonspartans@gmail.com is the best place to find us. All right, let's get rocking. Let's get rolling here. Quiet day for Michigan State on the front of all news considered, right? Like transfers, recruiting, like it's May for crying out loud. However, that didn't stop the Michigan State world and Michigan world from buzzing on Twitter here. Now, let's just get to the hard news right now. Jaden Mangham, former Michigan State running back, former Colorado running back, former University of South Florida running back, he commits to Minnesota. Okay, so little interconference transfer right there. No problem. Who cares, quite frankly. Jaden Mangham, starting safety. He started as a freshman for a little bit, started as a sophomore for 10 games. He's visiting Ohio State. He's visiting Nebraska this week. And then, here's the punchline. He is visiting Michigan this weekend. That's right. One of Michigan State's best defensive players taking a trip to the school down the road, something that you wouldn't even think of if you played for Michigan State. Well, I pick your year before the Mel Tucker era started, but nevertheless. Now, guys, I'm a big benefit of the doubt guy, and I feel like I've been saying that a lot here the last few weeks because you got to keep an open mind in the transfer portal as you are a fan of a team undergoing a regime change, especially in this day of NIL and the transfer portal. There's 1,000 reasons why kids can go in. So let's just, do this whole theatrical act of benefit of the doubt really quick for defending Jaden, even visiting Michigan, which leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. We'll get to that in a little bit. Defending him, first and foremost, just how about what a time to be at Michigan State? Could you fault the kid perhaps for not having a real emotional attachment or understanding the gravity of rivalries in the last, we'll call it 2 years here, for example, for Jaden Mangham? Not the healthiest culture established at Michigan State. Sure, go ahead, spread your wings. Maybe it was just so bad that we don't even care about traditions or the rivalries or how this is going to look being a front runner here in the future. But again, let's all keep an open mind here. And point blank period, guys, like this is just a new era of college football. He's growing up in an era where college is less about community, less about tradition, less about rivalries. And for many players, understandably so, it's just more transactional. Just go ahead and get that bag. Go ahead and find a place where you think that the money is going to just come raining upon you one day. Okay, I get it. And that kind of just concludes this talk of defending that decision to even visit Michigan, probably even commit there eventually if I had to fetch a guess. But here's a list of reasons why to not support this decision. Because look, as humanistic as we can be and understand that, hey, these young men have to make decisions for themselves that benefit them. At the end of the day, college sports fanhood is hardly being human and more of just being a fanatic or a hater in this case. So let's just get right into why you can hate this decision. It's Michigan. I don't even want to go to the city of Ann Arbor, let alone put on blue, let alone put on yellow, let alone play for the school that I was supposed to hate during my time at Michigan State. Here's another thing, too. It's not like Jaden jumped in the portal right at the start of spring or even in the winter when the new staff came. No. They waited until the few final hours of the spring portal to just take a dive in. All right, was there drama around Jaden Mangham potentially being squeezed out of the program because, he lost his job to about 4 different running backs? There very well could be. I don't know the full story, but what I do know is that jumping in at basically midnight of the spring portal cycle after taking up all the starting reps and being cemented as a starter, let's not get it twisted here, he would have started next year. I do know that's a bizarre look. That's a really bad look. And hey, you know what? If you really want to take it this far, let's say that you hold that number 1 jersey as a sacred artifact here in East Lansing. They basically kept it on the shelves from Charles Rogers to when they brought it back for Jaden Reed, which Jaden Reed, fine, go ahead and have that number 1. And then given right to Jaden Mangham, wears it for a few years, and then splits to potentially Michigan. Let's have a little bit of shame here, guys. So, okay, that's it. That's pretty much it. I wasn't going to focus this much on it. We did have news of this visit coming a few days ago, but it is what it is. And then some Mangham family members got into it on Twitter, namely Jaden Mangham. I can only assume he's a brother of Jaron and Jaden. And he got into it with a few former players of Michigan State. Tony Lippett, Felton Davis was one of them. Brian Lewerke added his 2 cents. But so, look, we could leave it at that. We could just be mature. We could let it slide. We could just leave it to the former players to deal with, and we'll just stay out of the mud, right? Well, just like I said, I'm not a former player, but I am a swine. I will happily roll into this mud. So yeah, you want to stoke some flames over there? Let's just talk about it. And speaking of not being a former player, well, I don't think Jaden Mangham is a former player too, and he had a lot of opinions to say about player toughness and what players can and cannot do. And look, I don't know what happened with Jaden. I don't know why he wasn't able to carve out a 7-school, 9-year career like some family members, but nevertheless, that didn't stop him from getting in on the action, so let's just keep rocking and rolling. Now, R.J. Shelton was another Spartan that wasn't too complimentary of the Manghams, calling them, quote, dog food. Which, okay, that's a pretty analytical breakdown right there. But Jalen said to that response on Twitter, "You're 30 years old, bro. You and Felton Davis should act y'all's age and stop living in 2015. This ain't the MSU program y'all played for. Y'all should mind the business that pays you." Now, there were 2 responses there. One that I'm just going to share right now. My first thought is, okay, you should act y'all's age. Jalen, your brother Jaron is going to be 25 years old next year, playing college football. When Kenneth Walker's 25, he will be in his 4th NFL season. So speaking of moving on from the glory days and acting your age, maybe let's just give some brotherly advice inside your own family tree there and suggest that, hey, 25 years old, you should probably be in your 3rd year of a real-world job right now. And I know it's very unfair. This wasn't Jaron's words, but dang it, if you're going to come biting at the Spartan Dog family, well, excuse me, I know I'm not a former player, but allow me to get a swing at the piñata right now. So act y'all's age. Okay, interesting. Okay, just nothing to say about Mr. 4 school, 7 years in college. Okay, just want to make sure we're on the same page here. But the more appropriate response, this was from Felton Davis. He responds with, "That's the problem for sure. We paid our dues to the OGs that came before us. They showed us the foundation, what it meant to wear and be a Spartan. So anything MSU is our business, to be honest." And that's just that. That's it. Hey, this isn't the MSU you guys played for. Yeah, that's the problem. That's how we got to the situation, is that the culture is so out of whack that we are just so blind to any shred of loyalty. And I understand that in the era of NIL, look, if it's all about getting money, go for it. You can get your money at a lot of other places other than your arch rival. That is the issue here. I get it, guys, but hey, this is the part of the roster cycle in a new regime change. The culture has to change. And I'm going to cross sports here. This is something that Danny Hurley talked about, head coach of UConn men's basketball. He did an interview. I forgot the show. I'm really sorry. But he talked about when they recruit the player, they recruit the entire family. They want to know what background they're coming from. Is there going to be any drama? Like, what is going on behind the scenes there? And look, every member of the Mangham family isn't bad. I know that. That would be incredibly unfair for me to paint. But there certainly is one vocal leader out there, and, well, that's rubbing some people the wrong way. So, but, hey, this is what it means to have a culture fit. Selfless people, not guys that are jumping into the portal at midnight after maintaining their status at the school for a full practice cycle. No. We're talking about team first guys. Again, go ahead and get your bread. I get it. Do it in the winter portal. Go ahead and get your number. See if Michigan State can match. And if they can't, all well. But you could do it at a lot of other places. And then, well, here is the biggest thing for me too, is that when you jump in, when you visit Michigan, don't act so confused as to why people are upset. So not only do we need culture established here in East Lansing, but we need people with at least a full brain sometimes in the action here. That is what just caught me off guard the most, maybe, is just, why are State fans so upset? Oh my goodness. What did you think was going to happen? You entered at midnight of the portal, you're visiting the arch rival, and then you're just so delusional as to why people are getting upset. But hey, they do delusion pretty good at some places around the country. You might be visiting one of them soon. But all right, we're going to get into a mailbag question here in a hot segment. But first, need to talk your ears off about Yahoo Finance. That's right, guys. It's our sponsor, our friends over at Yahoo Finance. And wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investments and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis rating, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users for each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. We're talking yahoofinance.com. It's your number one financial destination. It's yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. All right, and FanDuel Sportsbook, America's number one sportsbook. We're talking NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, MLB season still going. Detroit Tigers still looking for their first Spencer Torkelson home run. You can go ahead and bet those odds at FanDuel. And then my favorite, guys, the PGA golf season always in full swing over at FanDuel. And right now, gets even sweeter for new customers because new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, so much more. Guys, if you're watching NBA basketball, don't just bet on first basket, which they do have at FanDuel, but bet method of first basket. If you think that Jamal Murray is going to hit a free throw to start the game, you can get some healthy odds on that. It is all over the place at FanDuel. Again, guys, America's number one sportsbook. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to make every playoff shot count. It's FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. All right, we'll be more cordial, more friendly in this segment. If you liked what we said, just comment below on YouTube. That'll help the algorithm. And if you didn't, well, I'm sorry, Mangham family, but let's like a little lighter on the Twitter fingers. But believe me, you don't have to embarrass yourselves like that. All right, this question comes from Yep. That's their name on Twitter. It's just Yep. I'm sure it says the same thing on their driver's license, but they say, who do you think could be an unexpected breakout star this year, offense or defense? Now, of course, here on Locked On Spartans, we don't do things simple. We don't just give you one name when you ask a very simple question like that. We're going to break it out. I got 6 names in front of me, 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and there is levels to it because I like to think that both diehards and then just like not casual fans, but fans that don't know every single name on the depth chart both tune in. So the first name is a starter this year that might just be blowing up more than last year that we all could get familiar with, and then we'll work our way down to more, I don't want to call it obscure names because obviously I think they will contribute this year, but names that might be lesser known to all you fine folks out there. Number one surprise star for the season, starting receiver Jerron Glover. Now, if you're unfamiliar with his game, or if you're wondering why I'm even bringing him up, if you are a diehard thinking like Matt, this guy's a starting receiver, that seems like a pretty lame surprise. Well, just think about his career. I mean, last year, 8 games, 4 starts. Like, the guy did not get a lot of run out there, just 14 receptions, which is 7th on the team. Now, here is the good news. Not only do you have probably a better quarterback slinging the ball in East Lansing this year, But there is some attrition as far as those catches go. We just said that he was 7th on the team in receptions. There are 4 guys ahead of him that will be gone. Montorie Foster, Nate Carter, the only 2 guys that are still above him returning next year. Guys like Malik Carr, Tyrell Henry, Christian Fitzpatrick, and Trey Mosley, they're gone. So just by attrition, you are moving your way up if you are Jaron Glover, okay? And then what we're going to do next is a lot of hearsay. We are going to take the words of plenty of people. Some on the record, some off. We've heard great things off the record. But again, guys, there's 14 receptions. So, we got to take people's word for some things, right? And if you want to go down to Athens, Georgia, that's a fine program they have down there. They hosted Jaron Glover on an official visit when he was in the transfer portal. Now, granted, that was just one big-name school, but my goodness gracious, if the Dogs are hosting you for an official visit, they probably see at least something in your game. I was also hearkened back to an interview that me and Justin Thind, we collab on the SD4L show time to time. Last year, we were talking with Christian Phillips, Big Dooley. The question was, who has been surprising you in practice? Before we could even finish the question, he answered, Jaron. It's Jaron Glover. And that was, as a freshman, Jaron was doing that. So, another year season, hopefully we can stay away from the injury bug. But Montorie Foster will be getting a lot of the action from the defense. Jaron Glover, your time to shine this year on the opposite end. Name number 2, Brennan Parachek. All right, Brennan Parachek, again, this is a name that you might know if you're really into recruiting or even really kept a close eye at the end of last year. But Brennan Parachek, 6'5" sophomore tight end. Played in 8 games last year, 6 catches, and he played, again, a good bulk in the last month of the season. And guys, we've been begging for tight end play here in East Lansing for quite some time. I know this. You know this. Anyone that's watched MSU football for the better part of 8 or 9 years has known this. Brennan Parachek, I know he's young. I know he's only played 8 games, but this is as fluid of an athlete as you have seen in the tight end room in East Lansing in quite some time. I know we can say a lot of remarks about the Mel Tucker era. Heck, we kind of just painted with a few strokes in the first segment there. But there's one thing that you got to give a nod to. It's that they did decent at recruiting the tight end position, right? Because it's not just Brennan Parachek. It's also Michael Masunis. They won a recruiting battle for Jack Nickel. He is in the transfer portal, of course, but they beat out Notre Dame for him. It was a competitive tight end recruiting cycle in the short years of Mel Tucker. And hopefully we can see it pay off in spades here, because it's not just that I'm throwing a name out here. And hey, Matt, don't you know that Jack Velling, the tight end that caught the most touchdowns out of anyone that played that position last year, has transferred to Michigan State? Well, yes, I do. I think Jack Velling will take up a lot of air in the tight end room. However, last year, Oregon State ran 12 personnel. That's 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 37% of their plays. That is 15% higher than the national average. Jonathan Smith, Brian Lindgren, they love themselves some 12 personnel. So sure, Jack Velling might be on one end. And yes, of course, there will be situations where they have Michael Masunis out there for more of a blocking role. But if you want to drop the top, you want to take some tops off of defenses, you want to expose some seams, have another great athlete like Brennan Parachek out there. So I think that he will have a strong year. And I think by the end of the season, he will be a household name for Spartan fans. Now, the third name, I'm kind of sort of cheating here. This was a guy that was slated in the starting role during the spring game, but it's Isaiah Johnson. Isaiah Johnson. I got to get better at saying that name. Isaiah Johnson, 2nd year of receiver. Right now, as things stand, if we could take the spring showcase for what it's worth, starting at that slot receiver role. Now, Alante Brown, 6th-year guy, he's going to have something to say about that competition. He's going to want to try to take a few bites out of those reps. And then Michigan State's still in the mix right now for Javarius Johnson, the receiver transfer out of Auburn, but no indication of how that is going. So as things stand right now, Isaiah Johnson could be your slot receiver. So, just by default, he's going to be in the starting rotation. But that's not a name that a lot of people know. Wasn't a flashy recruit, just a 3-star guy. But yeah, he could pop off this year. Now for defense. Again, same thing, guys. We're going to start off with maybe a familiar name. And the familiar name we're going to start with is Jalen Thompson. Just like Brennan Parachek, another young guy. He popped off in the last month of the season here. Started the final 4 games of the year, to be precise. But I thought he looked strong. And as we know it, the defensive end room, you got some older experience as the starters right now with Chris Bogle and then Avery Dunn, who might have a higher floor than Jalen Thompson to start the ceiling. But man, if how he ended last season was any indication, I think he starts hitting his ceiling maybe sooner than later, and I could see him very well starting at defensive end over either. I think it'd be Avery Dunn is who he would jump, but nevertheless, I think Jalen Thompson is going to be a pass rusher that will get some run. Number 2, transfer, Quindarius Dunnigan from Middle Tennessee State. He could play the edge. He could play in the middle during pass rush situations. I thought he played really, really good at the spring showcase, and I got to temper expectations. Like when I say good, I don't mean he's going to be first team all Big Ten, but this is certainly going to be a plus player and a guy that could use as a gadget, just like I said. Defensive end, or hey, let's say it's 3rd and long. You want 4 guys on that defensive line that could, turn up the speed a little bit, have some tenacity. I think Quindarius Dunnigan is going to be a good candidate for that. He was 2nd team All-Conference USA last year with 23 quarterback pressures. Now, will those numbers translate directly to Big Ten ball? I have a hard time believing that, but again, guys, I think a plus player at the end of the day. And the last name, I mean, this is a name that you might already know by now, but Wayne Matthews, linebacker, transferred from Old Dominion. Now, Michigan State was starved for some linebackers that could cover in the pass game last year. They were exposed to the 9s throughout the season. So they just went ahead and got Wayne Matthews from Old Dominion, the guy that was graded as the 3rd best Sun Belt linebacker overall per Pro Football Focus, and PFF, Pro Football Focus, graded him as the 10th best coverage linebacker in the nation. You talk about patching up a hole, that's how you do it. And it's not just the guys at PFF that graded him so high. We talked with Aiden Childs, quarterback. You may have heard of him. Not too long ago on this very show, we asked him, hey, who are some surprising teammates so far in the spring? Who did he name? He named Wayne Matthews being a strong coverage linebacker. So the stats might not be there at the end of the day. It might not be like a 12-tackle day for Wayne Matthews all the time, but man, his damage in the pass game will pay off in spades for Michigan State. All right, guys, we're just going to end this show here. I know we started it kind of on a player haters anthem, but we're going to end shining a light here on MSU baseball. And this is a program we talked about a few weeks ago. We got a mailbag question at maybe just about the worst time. This was after they lost by like a combined 80 runs to Purdue in a 3-game series. And we were talking not great about Jake Boss's program in East Lansing. But guys, as the Spartan or the Locked On Spartans jinx will have it, they've kind of turned it around. Now, I'm not saying that they're like ranked in the top 25 right now, but since we've last talked about baseball, they are 7-4. Okay, they've won a series against Michigan last weekend. The first time in a few years they were able to do that. And now Michigan State is 9-9 in conference play. Now, why is that a big deal? Because the top 8 teams in the Big Ten, they get bids to the Big Ten tournament. A tournament that Michigan State has only been to twice since 2016. So currently they are in 7th place, 6 conference games left at Minnesota, who is at the bottom of the barrel in the Big Ten, and then home versus Nebraska, both of those being 3-game series. But just keep an eye on baseball all of a sudden, because they were left for dead. And I promise you it wasn't just me that noticed this. I think a lot of people on Twitter noticed it after they posted the score of, what was it, like 21-3 against Purdue. And that was a few days after, like 15-5 against Central or something like that. Things were spiraling out of control for Michigan State, but against all odds, they've got themselves back on the train here. So shout out to them. And also shout out to women's golf. That's right. Over at Forest Acres, they finished 3rd in their regional, but guess what? All you had to do was finish in the top 5 to move on to the NCAA tournament. So Michigan State, they'll be making their 16th appearance at the NCAA championships, 14th trip under head coach Stacy Solobnik-Stoll. And this is the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons they have advanced to the NCAA tournament. So that is not too shabby. They also broke their own regional record. They shot an .860. That is 12 shots better than its previous low 54 hole score in the NCAA regional. That's actually just breaking a record that they set last year. So the trajectory of this women's golf program, moving right on up there. Just to keep on reading the notes here, this is all on MSUSpartans.com. I don't want to claim that I did all this research. Let me get that out of the way right now. But they also write the third place finish at the NCAA Regional, tied for the second best for the Spartans in an NCAA Regional. Again, last year they were also in third place. And then they did it again in 2001, 04, 17. Not too shabby in their 24th ever NCAA Regional. So, yeah, that's some hard golf out there from what I've understood. We talked about it the other day. I've yet to play Forest Acres West, but, yeah, that is a grind of a course from anyone that knows anything about golf. So shout out to them. That's incredible to shoot 3 under as a team over 3 days on the course. That can't be stated enough, but, yeah, there you have it. There you go. Come here for the Mangham family reunion in the first segment, and just wondering why people are getting so upset at the visits that were taken. And yeah, stay for women's golf at the very end, and a little bit of men's baseball. All right, guys, that's it. Again, you ever have a question? Sheehan_sports on Twitter, or if you want to reach out, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. All right, we will be joined tomorrow by a guy that actually wrote the blog post about the Manghams that got traction online. Former players started to notice it. It's a guy by the name of Connor Muldowney. He does some work over at Spartan Shadow, so that is who will be joining us tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to continue a lot of today's conversation, and then we're going to have a fun segment with him. I don't want to spoil it yet, but it's very topical to something that he just went through in his life. So until then, folks, love you all. Go green.